Good morning, it's me again. I'm fresh and ready to go, so I thought that I would get on here and drop another video of the train wreck. So please subscribe, like, share, comment, all those things. Thank you for being so kind in the comments. People are healing, and we don't want to hurt an already hurt place within them in the comments. So I really appreciate the kind interactions going on in the comments. So the train wreck shall continue. So still continuing in the time period of 12 and under. And the memories seem kind of random or scattered, as I mentioned before in one of my previous videos. If you haven't seen those, I do keep them in order so it makes sense as I'm going. But a little recap: I did not have my memories from majority of my testimony. The Lord actually gave me a prophecy where He told me that I was unable to have the memories for the majority of my life because, well, I would just go crazy. And the things that I do know are plenty enough to make one crazy. So, with that being said, we shall continue. So my family was on the poor side when I was growing up. My father was a trucker, which I had mentioned, and he took on another wife and all her children, and so the money that came into my household for me was far and few between. But when he did send money, my mom would give it to my stepfather to continue his education for his job, which was very frustrating. I only was allowed 3 pairs of pants for school, a pair of shoes, a book bag, and a few tops. Which doesn't make any sense because it's not like pants were expensive, but I was only allowed 3 pairs of pants. But I had lots and lots of skirts and lots of dresses. And one thing that blows my mind is why I wasn't given any shorts to put under those dresses, because I can't imagine letting my children go play at a park or with other children or even to a church function, anything that they would go to. Leaving the house, you have to have shorts underneath your dress because you're playing, and I'm not trying to have my children exposed to anybody. So, there's that. Sorry, my eyebrow itches. So I don't understand that. And I do remember an instance where I was at school and the boys were like lifting up my skirt and stuff like that, and Todd absolutely loved to see me in little dresses and all this stuff like that. He bought, like, when I tell you 3 pairs of pants versus like 20 dresses and skirts, it was extreme. So it was almost like they were trying to force me that way. But I'm not going to school in a dress and not having anything to cover because I already have everybody pawing at me. I don't need people seeing my panties and stuff like that. And I was already shamed for my body and, you know, like all the uncomfortable things, knowing that I had all these things going on, and then to not have a way to keep myself covered. I'm not trying to do all that. And I remember, this is a bit gross, I'm gonna be honest, but I'm trying to be very transparent in a excuse me, a clean as possible kind of way. But when I was in school, I had to wear panty liners because I was always discharging at school, and I didn't know what that was, and it happened for so many years. And it was so bad that I would soak a panty liner until it disintegrated. Basically, it came apart, and the crotch of my pants and the upper part of my thighs where it meets that seam that goes under the zipper of like a blue jeans, it was all soaked. And I smelled like intercourse, if I'm being honest. And and I did my best to hide these things, and my mom obviously purchased the panty liners for me to wear. She's like, oh, I don't know what that is. Looking back now, I realize that it was intercourse secretions. Trying to say it in the cleanest way possible, but it's really nasty and gross. So every day I had to deal with that as well at school. And then on the other hand, my mom would make me ask for permission to take a bath, and I was only allowed to take a bath like every other day. I wasn't allowed to take a bath every day. I don't know why. I don't know if she thought we were conserving water. We were on a well, so do you have to conserve water on a well? It just goes right back to the well. I think it was really a control issue because my mother was very jealous. She would make very ugly, underhand comments, as I believe I mentioned before, as if I wanted to be taken advantage of every day of my childhood, or nearly every day, as if I wanted some troll of a man to be touching me and stealing my innocence and destroying my body and basically shattering my soul. You know, good times. Like, who would want that? And then I remember a time that I was in the bath and Todd came at the bathroom door. So you walk in the bathroom door and the bathtub was against the back wall, and he came in the bathroom door and just opened it and stood in the doorway with his hand on the doorknob watching me in the bath. And I would scream every foul word. I was very foul-mouthed. Because we know that the Bible says, out of the heart we speak. And so there was nothing happy happening in that heart. A lot of brokenness and anger and all those things. And then when my mom finally came in after he left, she was like, oh, he probably just thought it was me, honey. It was an accident. I'm like, he stood there for like 10 or 15 minutes. It was an obscene amount of time. And she's like, he probably was just looking for me. My eyes cannot roll back in my head deep enough. Like, and then, excuse me, on the flip side, then at my dad's, his houses, as I mentioned before, were always falling apart, and there was kerosene heaters, and nothing's wrong with that as far as kerosene heaters go and stuff like that. But when I tell you the house was falling apart, I mean the ceiling was caving in, and the walls were crumbling, and the floors you could see through in some spaces. And he wouldn't turn the heat on in the winter except for the kerosene heater, and only when it was like 40 degrees in the house. It was always freezing. We always had covers. My dad liked it that way. He didn't care about anybody else. Both my mother and my father, even after they separated, were very selfish and very abrasive and abusive in different ways, of course. And I remember that, like, I maybe was like 9-ish, my dad, every time, I mean, nearly every time we were shopping, like he had this little, what's it called? Like an S10. Excuse me. So it had the seat in the front, and then those little seats that come out of the wall at the side would fold down, so you'd have two at the back, and then me and my stepsister would sit in those, and then my stepbrother, he was 2 years younger than me, so he would have been like 7 or 8. He was smaller. He would sit in the floor in the middle at the back, and they would go shopping a lot of times and leave us in the back of that car for 2 and 3 hours with no food, no water, can't go out to go to the bathroom, absolutely nothing. Or they would go out to eat and leave us in the parking lot with no food, no water, cold or hot, depending on what time of year it was. It didn't matter. We were not allowed to get out. We were not allowed to go bathroom. I mean, for most of my life, I was just terrified to go to the bathroom, if I'm being honest. Like, to actually have to take time to go to the bathroom. Sorry, I'm outside, and it sounds like a big motorcycle went by the main road on the outside. He is really loud for a motorcycle, maybe a truck. Anyway, so I was terrified to go to the bathroom. I think, I mean, I went pee, of course, but to go to the bathroom, I think I would maybe go once every 2 weeks. I was literally terrified. And then I wouldn't go much because I was too afraid to go, because, I don't know, you feel vulnerable in the bathroom, and I wasn't allowed to be vulnerable. The little neighbor boys are playing. So I was terrified to go to the bathroom, and we were in the car, or excuse me, the truck for hours, and it was sad. They would go out to eat, like at a nice country style restaurant, and get a big juicy breakfast or something, and then they would come back with like the doggy bag of their leftovers and toss it in the back, and we literally would have to fight each other for the food. And my dad's household, they never cooked dinner. Like, I remember if I was there for 2 weeks out of the summer, I would maybe get dinner twice. Whatever food we found, we had to figure it out for ourselves. We weren't provided food. We didn't eat. I don't know what I ate. Cereal, milk. We weren't provided food. And then on the other hand, my mom was such a good cook, but I wasn't allowed to eat it because I wasn't good enough to have the treats that she made for Todd. Those were Todd's treats. So, like, when they left to leave me somewhere, I would scour the house looking for where she hid all of, like, the sodas and his special candy. And I say special because, like, he was so special, everything was set aside for him, and I was not allowed. I was not good enough. I was not special to receive anything that wasn't the necessity. When I had lost enough weight and they were remotely satisfied with me, I was allowed to receive a little bag of candy for my birthday instead of a birthday card. But they controlled everywhere that I went. My brother and my sister were older, you know, and they had moved out and they had their own places. I was not allowed to talk to them on the phone, or my grandmother, or anyone. They shut me off from the whole entire world unless they allowed it. If it was convenient for them, for my sister to come and get me for an overnight fun time, then I was allowed to go. But if not, then I was not allowed to go. I was not allowed to go anywhere or talk to anyone unless they allowed it. And my dad, also, when we would go to stores and stuff like that, he would think it's so funny to draw attention to himself and all the things. I would be walking through the store, and even at the front of the store when we'd first walk in, we'd be so excited that we got to go somewhere. And my dad would come over to me and pull down my pants and my panties at the front of the store, in front of everybody. And he thought it was so funny. He would laugh so loud. He would think it's so funny that everyone was looking at my little naked body. And it wouldn't happen just one time, it happened a lot of times. Or he'd wait until we were having some sort of family get-together with my cousins. I had all boy cousins except for one girl, but she never come around. She never come around because, you know, my dad's side of the family is like, the best way to describe it is hillbilly, okay? Hillbillies. And then my mom's side was more like Mennonite, a break off of Amish, and like a break off of Dutch Amish. So my mom didn't think that through, did she? My dad was crude, and his family was crude. So he would wait until all the guys were sitting on the porch and they were just, you know, cackling and stuff like that and telling funny old stories and stuff. And I'd like to sit out there and I would listen. And then my daddy would be like, go get me a treat. And I would go get him a soda or something. And then I would come back and I would hand him the soda, or I'd put it down beside him by his cup. And then he would depants me and they would make fun of my body. They would make fun of if I did or didn't have enough pubic hair, or if my legs were too fat, or whatever. I don't even remember all the things. And so there was a period of time that I stopped going to my daddy's because I was done with letting him treat me like that. I just wanted my daddy to love me, and he made fun of me. But then he got to a point, I think I was like 12, so I stopped going for like a couple years. And it got to a point that he was like, you're my kid and you're gonna come to my house because it's my time and you don't have a say-so until you're 16, and it's all control. So so I started going again, and I remember I used to, shocker, always have terrible migraines. And I started again going, and I want to say it was like 12 or 13 when I started going back again. And by then my stepsister was older and she was having boyfriends, and for whatever reason my dad was allowing them to stay over at the house. And so I was like, ugh. I was just, my dad's house, you never know who is staying the night. And I remember being on the couch one day. I just had such a terrible migraine, so I laid down and took a nap like people were outside. My dad always had like people coming and working on cars. Ugh, there's something, oh, there's an outlet back there and it's like digging me in the back. I'm sorry. people working on cars. He was one of those guys that was always fixing and flipping cars. My dad always had people over, and then they would stay all day. I mean, all day. Like, what are these people? Get a job. Come on. Anyway, sorry. I was just so frustrated by it. But I mean, he also worked as a trucker off and on and did this on the side, so it's whatever. My dad was always into flipping and stuff like that. You know, little side hustle thing. I mean, I can't be mad at it now that I'm an adult, but whatever. Anyway, so you never know who was going to be there, and people are always just coming in and out. But I laid down and took a nap, and I was in the living room on the couch, and all of a sudden my stepsister's boyfriend came in. He goes, "Come on, let's go to the laundry room." And I was like, "For what? Leave me alone. I'm taking a nap." You know, like, if anybody knows me, don't wake me up if I'm sleeping. Like, you get a special kind of ugly if you wake me up when I'm sleeping. But, especially if I have a headache, don't do it. Just don't do it. But anyway, he's like, "Come on, let's go to the laundry room." I'm like, "For what?" He's like, "Because I want to have sex with you." And I was like, no, ill. This man, if Beetlejuice had a brother, you hear me? If Beetlejuice had a brother, his breath smelled like death. I think he showered once a month. I'm not even kidding. Smoked like a stack. And just, what's a little boy from Peanuts that always had the Dust Bowl around him? I don't remember his name, but that's what that man makes me think of. He was always dirty. No matter if he just took a shower or not, he was always dirty. His breath always smelled, literally, I'm not even kidding you, like death. It was something I've never smelled before. And when things happen, you just remember those things about people. And so I was like, no. And he's like, "Come on, I want to." I'm like thinking to myself, who the heck are you? You're nobody, dude. Go get the thing you sleep with every night. Like, ill. And thank you, Jesus, that my cousin had walked in the door, and he walked away and left it alone and never came back to that situation again. And I was so thankful. But in the same turn, a couple days before that same cousin, we were all watching movies. That cousin, that man, my stepsister, me, my stepbrother, another couple. They were all older than me. I was the youngest except for my younger stepbrother. They were all like late teens, early 20s, and I was like 13-ish, 12, 13. And I was laying there watching the movie. I fell asleep, and then all of a sudden I woke up thinking I was going to pee all over myself. Like, it was such a pressure inside myself that I was like, what is happening? I was going to pee on myself, and I woke up in his... I barely opened my eyes just to peep through a little bit because I didn't know what was going on. And that same cousin had his hand so far up my... so far up me. We'll just leave it at that. So far up me that it was so painful. You would have thought he was fishing in a tackle box for something. I mean, or digging in the bottom of Santa's bag looking for something. I mean, it was very aggressive. And I just laid there. And then the night after that, the same cousin insisted on being serviced. So that was that. And the other couple that was in a house was actually a half sister. My dad gets around, you see what I'm saying? So before my mother and father got together and got married, my dad was married three times before. And the wife that was before my mother had a daughter, and my dad signed over legal rights when she was a baby. The woman wanted my dad to sign over legal rights to her father, the woman's father. So my dad was biologically the father, but the mother didn't want him on the papers. I think that's how you would say it. But then when she was like 14 or 15 and older, she came by and wanted to, you know, get to know my dad and stuff like that. And she was around, and her boyfriend were also staying there at that time. And for whatever reason, her boyfriend also wanted to put his hat in the ring with me. But luckily, I diverted him as well, with just like small panderings to his ego. And, you know, I was a very flirtatious somebody, and I was able to, I don't know how you describe it. I was able to use that to my benefit, to be able to survive to the next situation, you know, to lead someone to believe that was like pressuring me for something, lead them to believe, oh yeah, honey, you know, we'll get to that, you know, that kind of thing, but then never get to that. Also at my dad's, these were different houses. He moved around often, but at one house there was two girls that were next door, and I went over once or twice in a summer that I remember, and these girls were talking about how they were trying to decide how they were, I don't remember if it was the Bloods or the Crips for that area. I don't remember which one it was. It was one of them. And they were trying to decide if they were going to get beat in, or the other option is you choose so many of the men that you want to take advantage of you. And I was talking to them about this option, and I was like, really? Like, why would you want to be in the gang? And they were talking to me, and they're like, well, this is happening, and it's good protection and that kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, really? So I was talking to them, and then when I left, I'm like, well, I'll be back in 2 more weeks. And then, like, I want to, like, meet with the people and all the stuff like that, because I was really considering it, because I felt like, at what point do I have an option, you know? And I came back 2 weeks later, and their house was stark empty, and it looked like no one lived there. And I asked my dad, I said, what happened to that family right there? And he goes, I don't know. Just one night they all disappeared, and I haven't heard anything from them. And I look back now, and I absolutely consider that God moving to keep me, because I was going to do whatever it was necessary. What's like 3 or 4 more people, you know, when you've already been tore apart by so many? What's 3 or 4? And then I had a friend at my mom's growing up that she also had a rough life, and she was going to introduce me to her aunt that was a witch, and I was interested in joining the coven, because obviously I was so mad at my family and all the things that had happened. But just at that point too, this girl I had been friends with for years. I mean, years, like since I was like 6. Off and on, we would do stuff together, and off and on, we would hang out at school. She was like a year older than me, so at some points we wouldn't be in the same school building. She would be in the next one, so we couldn't do as much then. My mom could not stand her, but we couldn't do as much then. But when then we went back and our grades were the same in the school, then we would do more together. And I was interested in joining that coven and getting set with learning witchcraft and all those things. But something was so weird. Out of the blue, her family too picked up and moved, and I had no contact with her. I didn't know any of her numbers anymore. And you have to understand, like, these are the 90s, so there's not ways to like find people like on Facebook and stuff like that you would now. So that too, I know, was the Lord moving in my favor, because obviously it's not the direction to go. There's no healing in the one who causes the damage. Satan is the one that causes the damage. So how can he offer you the healing? See, the trick is, for him, he leads you out far enough, and you think he's your friend because he pushes you, and he makes you feel brazen and stronger, and like, oh yeah, I'm having a good time, I can do this, but he lets you get pushed out so far that when he knows you're to a point, see, from the very beginning, he has legal right. The moment you sin, he has legal right, but he pushes you out so far that in a split second you can't get the help. You can't. Even if you cried out for Jesus, he has legal right. So he pushes you out so far that in a split second he can kill you. So don't think that voice that you're hearing egg you on, push you further in that good time, whatever it may be. Don't think for a second that friend, because he's not a friend, that friend is truly a friend. He's just pushing you out there so he can get you. Only the Lord can offer comfort, can offer healing in things, because, well, he's not the source of the pain. See, it's kind of confusing to me how people go to the source of the pain for comfort. It's like going to a rose bush to heal. That can't happen. So the only place to turn is to Jesus. The only person to cry out to is Jesus. The only person who holds the keys to your healing is Jesus. He made you in the beginning. He knows your purpose. So when you go to him again, he knows how he originally made you. So only he can restore you to your former self or a greater self. Because after that fiery trial of life, well, that's how a vessel, a pot on the potter's wheel is finished. The potter will do all the building, all the shaping of the pot on the wheel, but then it has to go to the kiln. After it's in the kiln, then it is decorated and used for the potter's will. So the question is, will you be a vessel of honor or a vessel of dishonor? We have to clean our robes. We have to empty our house of all the filth, our spiritual house, our physical house, and come to the Lord. So the train wreck continues, but God is in control. And the story has a beautiful outcome. Speak life over yourself. Speak life over your body. Speak life over your situation, even if it's hard to say it. Say the things that the Lord says over you. If you're saved and you're healing and you're having an issue, ignore the issue and speak what the Lord says about that issue. You know? Have a great day. Check out my other videos. Lots of other stories in them and to come. Have a great day. Bye.